You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
Introducing Dave Bray, Better Man.
I was blind all my life until I met you. You showed me the light, but you taught me down to build a better man. You got my hands away from sin. Amen. But you promised me there'd always be there through the worst of times and the suffering. But you taught me down to build a better man. And you got my hands away from sin. Amen. But the darkness wins when I let it in. And the shadows, they overtake me. Ooh, and I'm blinded once again. But you told me down to build a better man. Taught me down to build a better man. And you got my hands away from sin. Taught me down to build me back again. So let the darkness come, let's tear me down again. You can tear me down, you can tear me down, you can tear me down to the end. So when I take my final breath, I'll be a better man. I was blind all my life.
So let's go ahead and get this rolling. Today we have Dave Bray, USA. That's right, Dave Bray. Dave Bray is a musical prowess. How would you say that? Musical prowesser? A musician?
Just a performer, national
Performer.
recording artist. Yeah.
There you go. National performing artist. And Dave's got a bunch of great stuff going on. I was introduced to Dave quite a while ago, especially with I think it was Madison Rising, correct? That was the band. And so ever since then, I love the music, love the inspiration, love the motivation. And so I asked him and he said, yep, let's do it. And so we have Dave Bray on today at the Devil Dog Talk Show. So we're excited. We're going to have some couple songs throughout the interview. We'll do a nice little musical sandwich, guys. And you'll be able to get all the information about tour dates, events, and how you can get a hold of Dave Bray music. So go ahead and introduce yourself a bit, Dave. A little bit of history, if you would.
Yeah, man. Well, did you say I was an FMF corpsman as well, or no? Did you
not
did you
yet.
mention that?
No, that's
okay.
I was saving it for you.
Oh, okay. Got you, man. Well, hey, listen, FMF, Devil Doc, 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines, Campus in North Carolina, State Platoon, which I don't even know if it exists anymore. I think they try to eradicate the sniper teams out of the Marine Corps, but hopefully something's...
Yeah, I did see that memo.
It's just unfortunate. Anyway, long story short is, went in right out of high school, Dixie Cup Navy, got in a lot of trouble, hated the idea of being stuck working in a hospital, and got in emergency medicine, started focusing on emergency medicine. And that's where I met a lot of guys that had gone green and then come back to the blue side. And they're like, dude, you'd be perfect for the, going with the Marine Corps. And I said, well, point me in the direction, because this is not working. So I crossed over and did field medical training in Camp Johnson and
Nice.
Camp Geiger. Yeah. And that's the East Coast. And then I graduated top dog out of that class. So kind of like Top Gun. I like to tell
Hoorah,
people that's
Top
pretty
Dog.
much- yeah, hoorah, Top Dog, Top Gun, basically same thing. So, and then I, as most people after graduation, they went and took like, a 96 or something like that. I was reporting for duty 15 minutes later after graduation. And, I went and talked to the senior chief that was running the Battalion 8 station. He's just like, hey, what do you want to do, man? You're super motivated, I guess. Huh? I was like, yeah. I was like, man, give me something dirty and something that gets me out of any type of BAS or hospital or ER or anything. I said, just get me down, get me dirty, anything you got, man. I wanted to do recon. I wanted to do force. I wanted to do, MARSOC, anything. So they're like, why don't we, start out with the sniper team guys out at State Platoon? And that's where it all began. And, spent time working up with those guys, getting ready for a deployment, and did a deployment. We ended up responding to Operation Assured Response in Africa. And we ended up camping out basically at the embassy in Monrovia, Liberia for 80 some days or something like that, and came back home. And that was it. And that was my military sort of service. I spent a little bit more time back home with artillery. And then I started just exiting out and, wanting to chase music and do that kind of thing.
Now, what years were you in?
That'd be 93 to 98.
Wow, dude. You know what? I'm actually kind of impressed by that, because it's like, I did not think you were an older gentleman. I thought you were around how old are you, in fact?
I'm sniffing on 50.
What?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, you're looking good for sniffing around 50.
Yeah, no, listen, hey, and I learned that looking good shit from military, dude. You wake up every morning, you do a little bit of a grind, and you stick with it, and you feed your body right, and you hydrate, and you do everything that doc tells you to do, and you do all right.
That's right. That is right. Now, while you're in, you got out. How many years did you do? Sorry, let's get back to that.
So basically, just four
Right.
active, 2 inactive, and then a year of delayed entry. But obviously, you can't count, hanging out at the recruiter station. But I did get 3 recruits in there.
Nice.
So
Did you get your
I
NAM?
count that as
Damn
that
right.
as service. Damn right. So yeah, man. But that was, like I said, my military service was brief, but I feel like I covered a lot more than even some guys that did more, a little bit more time, because I was able to sort of be a part of 2 branches and see things from the Navy side short fleet, as well as the Navy side underway fleet, plus the Marine side short fleet and the Marine side underway fleet. So I kind of saw a lot in a very brief amount of time. And even that, the little Operation Assured Response even turned into more for me as a corpsman. I went in as, one of the sniper team members and came out to go back in as a humanitarian effort, as more of a corpsman side of things. And we ended up like moving a lot of civilians out of harm's way and that kind of thing. So it turned into more humanitarian effort. But I got to see a ton in a short amount of time, and just blessed for that time. When you're in it, you don't realize how sort of blessed you are to be in those moments. But when you look back, you realize it, and you cherish, the brotherhood and the friendship that you had, and obviously the experiences,
Yeah, no, I do know very, very, very well, sir. I do. It's pretty nuts. I'm sitting back remembering my young days, and I was actually at Camp Lejeune. I worked at the ER. Was right out of Corps School, right out of Corps School. They call it a PSI. I don't know if they still call it that shit. And FMF school is now FMTB. I don't know if it's another thing nowadays. Who knows? But yeah, right there, Camp Johnson, Camp Geiger, Camp Lejeune Naval Medical Center, which would be the emergency room, I think. And yeah, like that is just it's an intriguing place, because I had the same motivation when I was there. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I liked the hospital. It was great. especially in the ER. Got to learn a lot, tremendous amount. And, procedural wise, medically speaking, just a wealth of experience. So when we went to Camp Johnson, which is the FMF school or FMSS or FMTB, whatever it is nowadays, do you miss that marshiness? Because I sure as shit don't. Like everybody talks about the mountains of California. I'm like, bitch, I grew up in that. Like, give me a mountain. Yeah. What is a cottonmouth? What is a crocodile? Alligator? A snapping what? Turtle? No. Like all of this weird shit was over there. And I was like,
I most closely related. And again, because of the guys I was with, we spent a lot of time on our bellies, you know what I mean? Sort of crawling around with those snakes and lizards and frogs and toads and all that, bugs and chiggers and everything else, man. Can you say chiggers? C word. Can you say that? Anyway,
no, those things are horrible.
They're they are a nightmare. And
ticks.
I always say that when the tick, the size of the bugs are just. But long story short is I say that those being face to face with all that nasty, swampy, muddy creatures and critters really, really got me. That was one of the most preparatory moments in those training cycles that got me ready for actually going out into the real world, because it's the ones that come up to you like from afar. You're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. But the closer it gets, to realize, oh my gosh, hold on a second, it's not. That is actually a poisonous snake. I need to move. You know what I mean? And you realize that in your life, it can be the smallest minute thing that you don't see coming, can be the one that's most problematic in the future if you allow it to continue. It can be, something as big as, a bigger snake you think is maybe just a constricting snake, and you look closer, holy cow, that's a poisonous snake, I need to get away. Those are I relate a lot of those things to the people I've met along the way and along the journey in music and in business. You got some of the guys that, they're huge in the business. And then the closer you get to them and the more you realize, that their power is ill-gotten. And a lot of it it comes from a lot of poison, and it comes from a lot of bad places and negative energy. And although you want to be a part of certain aspects of that, to complete the mission, you have to chop the heads off of some of those snakes along the way. And it's really one of those hard things to even describe, but when you're looking through life and you're in the swamp, it's the two are very similar. There's things that you realize that become actually very comforting to you. And that can be a really smushy log or something you're going to put your head down on for a minute, just so, because you've been holding your head, chin up for the last 4 hours. Then you find something that you can just shove up underneath your chin for a minute to hold your head up. So you never know what's going to be a good or bad thing in those situations. And life is very similar. Some of the things that look great, the closer you get to them, the more you can smell on them a little bit, and you rub noses with it. You realize, man, this stinks, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah. Not everything shining is gold, right? That is so true.
Yeah, you could use that one. Yeah, I'd never found anything gold in the swamps, though. So
that is so true. Yeah, usually it is like I was remembering we were going through the Litter O course. I'm pretty sure you remember that. And we had nothing but short people. Now, mind you, I'm only 5'9", and I'm not that short, not that tall. And the other people around me like 5'5", 5'6". So I felt like the gentle giant at the time. We're running through the course, and we get to the section where you have to carry the litter above your head and go through the swamp, like literally. And as we're starting to go, they're popping off the arty sims, they're doing smoke, all the instructors are laughing, having a great day. And I'm lead on the carrier, the litter right there, right? Lead carrier. And I'm looking forward, and all I see is just this black line slithering through the water nice and slow. And I just stop. I go, why the fuck? Why are you stopping? Get your move. And it's like, I was, snake. And then they look up, and I'm just kind of like shaking and pointing as the water's at my nose. And I'm like, snake. And they look, and sure as shit, there's a snake. A big old, whatever the hell the poisonous, I think is a water moccasin or a cottonmouth. I don't know. You just don't want anything to do with it. Put it that way. It's a pit viper. It's venomous. And at the end of the day, everybody's like, completely muddied. We destroyed, I don't know how many washers and dryers at that school, because every day you're just soaked in the filth, in the mucky muck. So you're just bringing back tremendous experiences and memories. I couldn't appreciate it more. So as you're transitioning into music, let's hit that up a bit. How did you go from sniper platoon corpsman which is an intense gig, right? A lot of guys that I knew that went state platoon, they ended up being more of an IDC than most people give them credit, or they ended up doing more 18 Delta medicine than most people recognize. And I always fell in love with that, because being able to do or step up, like you were saying earlier, you know, utilizing those transcendent skills in understanding the world and transitioning into the environment of music. How did you go about that? Were you always into music? Did you play guitar growing up, or how'd you get into this?
Well, I did the goat school, and I did go through a lot of that stuff. So again, it's a little bit beyond just FMF standard issue corpsman. And as a doc that's, forward observer out there on your own, you don't have a battalion aid station to back up to. So you got to train your guys. You got to train the people around you. You have to have, just like you're helping them carry gear and SATCOM and everything else, you need to ask them to all carry everything that you're going to need, if and when something happens on the battlefield. So it's a 22, right? So, they taught me how. I always say the Navy taught me how to do laundry and clean shit up real nice, and the Marine Corps taught me how to destroy shit and kill people. So it's one of those things where, that fine balance of how do I become efficient, not only for them, but how do they also help me do what's best for them as well. So it's obviously a team development exercise, but a reliability thing and also a trust thing. So that's one part of that. As far as going into music, when it came to the military and came to just being away from family and friends and home and all those things, I think a lot of sailors, a lot of Marines, a lot of servicemen and women, or if you're dealing with, high stress situations on a daily basis, that unwind or escape has always been to put in a set of earbuds and close your eyes at the end of the day and just allow something else to occur that is already sort of preordained and has a plan, but it's your own interpretation of the plan. And it's sort of self-guided meditation in a way for music. At least it was for me. For me, I would sit, if you looked at my music, my playlist or whatever, everything from the darkest metal you could possibly listen to, sweet country and Patsy Cline, all the way over to, I was really into movie soundtracks because the soundtrack alone would allow me to sort of rewatch the movie in my head. Like Last of the Mohicans was a big one for me. Wow. But anyway, long story short, when I put in a soundtrack or I put in you listen to an album or what I call a front to back, or one that you don't have to worry about coming across a song that's so hokey it takes you out of the moment. But I always used to try to use music as a form of escapism and a form of meditation. And I think what happened from that point on was I got out of the military. I was in a band. 3 days later, I'm on stage, no shirt on, freaking punching, lighting, freaking losing my mind on stage. Is just a complete exorcism of all demons and anything related to my past, my history. And I realized I kind of need to get that under check. So if you go back to version 1 of Dave Bray being out in the musical world and see where it's come from there all the way up to where it is today, it is so different. I mean, again, from going and playing all but punk metal clubs, into playing rock venues, decent rock venues, all the way into the corporate world of corporate entertainment, playing for, Kellogg's and big corporations, Fortune 500 companies, and then moving up from there into professional sports and performing at professional arenas. And then it's opening up for Leonard Skinner, Kid Rock, Kansas. I mean, all these different major, not even worldwide or household names, but worldwide names in music. And then you see what type of music I actually produce. I end up going sort of full circle back into the escapism. And the way that I write and how the songs that I create are now more about allowing people to sort of rid themselves of emotional baggage or damage or heartache or loss, things that can hold people back. Because I realized even in the beginning, when I was angry on stage in a punk rock club, I was angry at the loss and the heartache and all those things. I was just being physical about it and screaming as loud as I could and throwing a temper tantrum. And when I was, churning and being out on the band and on the road and just being away from home, thinking that I was, on this sort of path of one man type thing in this mission, I was escaping something else. So basically what it came down to was I wanted to spend more time with my family. I wanted to create music that I could play in front of them and they could be proud of it and I could be proud of it. And then I wanted to share it with the world to allow them to show how this piece of music has helped me or get me through a certain situation. And that's the kind of songs and the kind of music I like to create. So it's less selfish and more about helping others.
That's profound, bro. Like, honestly, it's very difficult to discuss that openly. I know how that feels. Like, I went through it with the show, utilizing it as kind of a cathartic release, a distraction or something I can get myself absorbed in. And the more people I met, the more people I discussed things with, they had that same sense of maturation, right? Where you're realizing the energy you're putting out is kind of the energy you're going to get back, right? And that's really amazing how you tell that about, hey, I actually want to spend more time with my family, right? I want to be in a place where they're welcomed and I'm welcomed, and there's this commingling of efforts are moving forward in a sense that are, homogenized. You guys are, self-serving, but yes, at the same time, serving others, right? So I guess that's a really amazing stepping stone, because I was going to ask about your inspiration on writing different types of music, but you kind of leaned right in there for me. So when I would like to ask further is, when you are writing a song, right, do you still allow yourself to go to and from that dark place? Do you still find that beneficial? Or have you found that the more you dive into the darkness, the more it eats you up?
I kind of feel like I got to get full Jordan Peterson. Of course I do. Of course I have to. You got to go Jordan on that one, because the darkness is there for a reason.
Right.
We have to have it in order to exist.
Like, the guy could not have a more Canadian voice.
Dude, I just love that he's teetering on the edge of, how what's the guy's Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller is always teetering on the edge of breaking down in a laugh.
Yeah.
So he's always kind of like, but then Jordan Peterson is he rides that same teetering line of just completely breaking down emotionally and not being able to finish the sentence. But I love both for their own skills and talents. But I do listen to a lot of Jordan. I find him completely honest in a way that a lot of people cannot articulate. And I love the fact that he is able to articulate the honesty in a way, for me, that makes a lot of sense. And, for me to say, no, I don't like to go to that dark place anymore would be the truth. But the other thing is, I really like to go to that dark place and get rid of it. And it's like cleaning out the shed. You know what I mean? It's while you look, every time you open it and close it and throw something else in there, and every time you open it and close it, it's a problem. 100% that it's an issue. You are taking steps, and it is hindering your physical, mental, and emotional life every single day. And you continue instead of venturing in there and actually ripping everything out and hitting the reset button and saying, okay, this can stay, this can go, I can use that, I can't use that, this can be sold. Instead of really doing a true inventory, and the shed in the backyard is a great metaphor for our lives, right? Instead of really looking at the inventory of what we have that we can literally put our hands on tangibly, and then the things that we know we're never going to be able to get back to because there's just too much stuff. They're both the same. We can always get back to the stuff that's in the way back. We just have to commit to moving every single thing that's in the way. And it is a relief to finish up a day and watch the sun go down and realize that you've done some inventory. You've checked some boxes. You've looked some of those darknesses in the eye. You've made some progress into checking the inventory and seeing if they're there, seeing if they're not still there. All those things, but you've managed to go back in and sort of reconfigure things that the shed can still be used. There's still more room for other things, both positive and negative, to go in there. So, to say that I like going back to the dark place is not a bad thing. I don't look at it as a bad thing to say that I actually, in some way, shape, or form, enjoy doing that inventory check.
No, that's really an awesome way to look at it, because it just shows a lot more utilization of tool sets, right? Like in psychology, like I've been going to therapy for like 12 years now, man. And so what I've learned is that there's nothing more to life but applying the tools that you can apply the tools to. So I really like the way you describe unpacking things, reorganizing, restructuring. And I'm guessing you utilize that a lot in your songwriting, because one of the songs I was listening to this morning is called One Last Chance. And we'll be playing that for our listeners today. And the sound of the song really reminisces that process, the process of recognizing certain things and then becoming mature and then taking the opportunity to really understand that. And musically, it hit me kind of hard, especially given the not just the cadence or the rhythm and the harmony, but the lyrics, the way that you describe in the song and the way it progresses. It's very personal and it's very, very powerful, because for a lot of people, that go through, I would say, just any kind of trauma or life experiences where you get too distracted by the day to day, or you get too distracted by your limitations or your fears. It's one of those that you could really listen to and go, hey, I'm not the only one. Dave's got this locked down. Look at this guy. He's got this song, One Last Chance. And man, it made me feel feelings. Got me right in my fifis.
I got you. I mean, and here's the thing, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand. They look at people. There is a stigma to law enforcement, military, people of service, and the stigma is, oh, their trauma must have been worse than mine. I'm just a civilian. I believe that in order to live a fulfilled life, you at some point in time will have to encounter something so tragically horrible that it absolutely shakes you to your core and makes you question if you can even move forward. So anybody that says, oh, I don't deal with any kind of PTSD or trauma or anything like that, I kind of question that, because I feel like as humans, we all at some point in time will encounter it. If you haven't had it yet, just be known that it'll come. And there's a lot of people on the civilian side that are like, man, because you were in the military, or because you served, or, you deal with this, you deal with that. Or most of my trauma comes from a place even beyond, my earthly existence. I feel it comes from a place that's just a part of the human existence. And it comes from a place that says, my gosh, I'm here in this life, I'm here in this world, and I'm given a certain amount of time that I have no clue what that time frame is going to be. And it's traumatizing for me to actually sit down and think, holy cow, this is going to end. What am I going to leave behind? Okay, so or motivating. It doesn't matter how you look at it, but one way or another, somewhere along your line, you can't weigh your trauma and your loss against somebody else's, because we're all feeling it, and we will all feel it at some point in time. And the song "One Last Chance," if I can, I'll tell you about it real quick. Was
Absolutely.
about yeah. I just actually put it up on, I put a super long diatribe about how the song came about on Facebook yesterday. So people are like, man, where did this song come from? Because it's so much different than, this rock song that you did or this rap song that you did. I'm like, this song just came from a friend of mine who was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago. And I had to watch her literally die slowly, a long, hard, painful, slow progression towards death. And if you knew her, and I'd known her for 7 years before she was diagnosed, she was the most outgoing, boisterous, loud, energetic, fiery, spicy, woman you've ever met. And this thing hit her like a freight train. And it just slowly ate her into nothing. And her last name was Chance. And the final days of her life, I was headed to Florida to see her, and was getting up the next day to go drive and see her, and realized that she was no longer with us. And, checked out before I got to, play that song for her. So One Last Chance is a song dedicated to her, so that she knew that she had something on this earth left behind, because I feel like as musicians, we are so grateful to have the ability to leave something behind that is entirely of us. And it is such a gift. You look at some of the biggest names that are gone, and it's the musicians that have left the biggest mark on the planet for the most part in numbers.
Yeah. No, I feel you on the whole music aspect of that. Music's always been a tremendous influence to my life and supporting factor. Like I can remember the songs growing up that really hit a chord with me, right? And to know the backstory, excuse me, to know the backstory of One Last Chance, it's really, it hits me. I'm not getting teared up. You are. But that's a tremendous dedication, especially as an artist, is to be able to pour yourself out there, right? Every single song, a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, I like this type of music, that type of music, whatever, being able to find your voice amongst the noise, right? And be able to make a song that impactful. Now looking back at it, the way that you're explaining it, it's remarkable. It's one of those, wow, get you right in the throat going, hiccup. Because it's important that people also understand that it is a breath, right? Being a corpsman, I guarantee you've seen it. I've seen it. The last breath of people is a traumatic one to experience, right? The human body fights so hard to stay alive, and the human soul, right? The thing that is in this vessel, this body, this fleshy boundy thingamajigger we call the body, right? And for some reason, a lot of us don't take the opportunity day to day to appreciate not only the grandiose things, but the small things. So I couldn't appreciate it more, you sharing that story today with us. Honestly, got my nose a little tied up there. I'm fighting a cold, but hey, that has nothing to do with it. I'm fighting back the good stuff, the tears. Now moving forward, when you look at a song and you're structuring it, right? How do you come about setting the tonality of the music? Do you focus on the harmony? Do you focus on the rhythm? I was watching you play on the Instagrams, and I was like, man, he's got a really great live performance sound. And then I was like, wait a minute, no, that's looped. My bad. Wait, no, okay, so he's playing rhythm there. Okay, my bad. And so like me being an audio engineering geek, right? We've been doing a series called DBU Days here in Valley Center with Dusk Bennett at DBU Ranch. And he has 30 plus years in music engineering and recording. And for me, I've noticed that getting tied back in with him and the engineering just craft, it's really opened my ears up more to how music is created. So to focus it back onto you, right? Because you're the guest. How do you play? Do you play multiple instruments at first, or how do you get that going?
So I'm not sure what on Instagram that you saw, but if it's me singing just in like basically a one man guy with a guitar, that's usually where it starts, and that first step is getting something from the beginning to the end, completing the idea, trying to keep it rhythmically and melodically not boring, although that is one of my hardest things to do, is because singing, being able to just have somebody play a piece of music for you and singing along is one thing, but having to sing and play at the same time, or it's like trying to drive a car and ride a horse at the same time.
I could never do it. Like honestly, you just brutal. Smack me with talent. Like I can't even do the hand tap and sing thing at the same. I can't pat my belly and tap my head I can't even say it right. Yeah.
So try to think of yourself driving a semi truck and riding a horse at the same. It's two totally different things. One is of rhythm. One is of a complete an emotion, and then trying to attach a genuine emotion to that is where I feel is like I was given a gift, right? I don't believe I'm the greatest songwriter in the world. I'm certainly not the greatest guitar writer or performer. I can't play guitar basically, but I do feel like I've focused so long and so hard on you mentioned a cathartic response. And I've always loved that in movies, when you get the goosebumps on your arms, or when you get that moment feeling like you're invincible. It happens when you watch Gladiator. It happens when you see it or you hear it in a piece of music, and it's just like it just keeps coming on. And to try to capture what I call that cathartic emotion, or that lightning in a bottle, is for me the quest. And there's a couple things that there's a couple things that music does religiously throughout history, right? It gets people either stomping their feet and dancing. It gets people, banging their heads and jumping around like wild animals out of time and just raging on each other. Or it can really break you down emotionally and like you said, reach into your heart and just rip it out. And I think where it comes to my skill set, which is the inability to, I can't pick up a freaking electric guitar and start chugging faster rhythms and creating on top of that. I think where my strengths lie is just inside of finding a real genuine truth and trying to articulate that truth, much like Jordan does with the way that he speaks, finding a way to articulate that truth in a very simplistic way by using a guitar. And if that's songwriting, then I guess that's where my strength lies. It's not where my only abilities lie, but that's where the strongest part of me lies. And I feel like when people listen to a Dave Bray song, no matter which one it is, one thing that they know that they are getting is a pure look at something, and they're getting it in a way that they may have never received it before.
That's awesome. The raw ingredients. I love it. And that's what I pick up. I really noticed that, especially in the song I was telling you about. I couldn't remember the song. I can't. It's one in one ear, out the other, I tell you. My wife hates it. My head's like a sieve. But I noticed that tremendously, the talent, right? And to be able to, like you said, articulate a thought in such a way that is simplified yet profound, right? And that's usually the best type of advice, music, songs, inspiration, poems, experiences. It's very difficult to derive the words, right? So I can only I appreciate and have the profoundest respect for you in that, because opening your heart, right, to a song, to a thought process, and committing yourself to a performance. Like you brought up a lot of remarkable people, Aerosmith, Toby Keith. You've performed on the same stage of a lot of these great artists. And I noticed that the humility that you have in just focusing on your music is something that I find rare and rarer in the industry of music. A lot of people, they get a little too ahead of themselves. They work on the aspect of appearances, right? And then the music comes, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. But it's a rarity to have somebody be able to generate great music, have a great message, have a great image, and then carry that over, right? That transcendence of tools, the transcendence of service that I noticed that you have, especially when you're doing, things like with law enforcement. I know you mentioned like corporate stuff, but I see you more often doing law enforcement, veteran gigs, and the veteran support is huge. So when you sing and you perform on stage, right? What does it feel like every time? Is it something new every time? Do you still get the butterflies? Do you get those nervous jitters? And how do you overcome that?
Well, yeah, absolutely on the nervousness. And, if you think about what a musician, again, has to go up there and do, and sometimes I got cheat sheets, I won't lie, but other times it's you and a guitar and some bright lights. And, sometimes that first note that you play, all of a sudden you realize that the whole sound of the room has changed since you did a sound check, and all that can shake a performer. The first note you sing, might give feedback or something, and all of a sudden your wedge is too hot. And again, because now there's people in the room compared to where there wasn't people in the room, there's just so many factors, again, of things that are happening. And even one guy on a stage with a guitar, there's still 40 or 50 other people that made that moment happen. It's all the stage crew, it's all of the light and sound guys that are doing it in the moment, but all the people that made all those pieces of equipment. If you think about how many people it takes just to get that one performance off the ground and flying, there's so many people that you're counting on. And I feel like when it comes down to that moment of stepping on that stage, I say that prayer, dear Lord, let this be the greatest performance these people have heard, and the greatest one that I can give. Let none of my heart be left inside of me when I take off this stage. Let the lights be perfect. Let the sound be perfect. Let the people listen and hear the words. those are my thoughts going on to that stage. And again, it's still, no matter what, it all comes down to you and your body and your mind being able to accomplish that one mission out there. And if you drank the wrong kind of water that day and drank purified water instead of spring water, you might not be able to hit that same note that you hit yesterday when you had the right water. If the humidity and the barometric pressure is off because you flew from a cold environment to a hot environment that's dry and you didn't get enough salt or whatever in your diet to cross over and have the right, I mean, it's so intricate when it comes down to the human body being able to perform and your vocals being able to perform and your guitar and your fingers being all able to work. So yeah, there's always nervousness there. But again, it's also like stepping to the edge of an airplane and saying, okay, well, I hope the chute's packed right. So
right. Man, that is amazing, though. Bringing in the technicality of vocals, I think, is great because I don't really interview a lot of different guests that focus in on vocals like you have. Like a lot of different guests, we talked about guitar, bass, piano, all that great stuff. We got a bunch of great episodes coming out from DBU Ranch Days to come forward. But to talk about the vocals, it's something rare. Because you're right, you have to really consider everything. Did you gargle? What did you gargle with? Are you looking for harsher tones? Are you looking for cleaner airiness? Like there's so much. Listen to me go. There's so much going on. If you couldn't tell, even talking can induce coughing. Could you imagine how horrible that would be? Like you're right in the middle of the national anthem, and you're like just ready to belt out, and the land of the free, and it just comes out. Like I just did, right? I would cry myself.
I've had mics. Yeah, I've had mics quit out on me, and I'm like stuck there in a crowd of people, and they're all like, you can hear some of them start to sing, and then that's the improvisational abilities on stage to be able to conquer and overtake those hiccups that can happen is another part of the game. If that happens, what's plan B? If that happens, if plan B fails, what's plan C? And it's all on you, it's all on you. It's tricky.
That is nerve-wracking.
It's just crazy. It's crazy.
I can't believe you do this. Like, why would anybody do you? I mean, honestly, why would anybody do this? Oh, it's great.
Well, that is why, if people want to find out more, it's DaveBrayUSA.com. Just throw that little thing in there. But if you want to follow the music on the mission, DaveBrayUSA.com. Same on all social media is Dave Bray USA. But the reason I love going out with the band is because, man, you got so much more cushion. You got so much more happening behind you that if you squeak or squawk and nobody's going to notice, you know what I mean? But you have people in an audience when it's just you and a guitar and a single spotlight, and you got people in that audience that are like eyeballing you, and you set up a song like, this is one of the most heartbreaking songs I've ever had to sing. I've performed it all over the world, and I've done this and I've done that, and you are setting this song up to be the greatest thing in the world. And then all of a sudden you go out there and you're, like you said, you're squawking note because you can't catch it. Your guitar, you left a pick in the damn end of your guitar, or you forgot to put a capo. All these stupid things can happen. One of your, somebody bumped your guitar and did not tell you, and one of your tuning pegs got smashed, and you actually go up there and your tuning peg is broken. You break a string, God forbid. The microphone you're having issues with, you can't get that right. The sound guy went out and got high, stoned, and drunk from 3 o'clock until 9 o'clock when you played, and now he's like completely screwing you. You just never ever know. And yeah, so like you said, I think we covered that. Yeah, of course, there's always going to be some kind of nervousness going into those situations.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you can overcome those things and still give great performances. Now, speaking of great performances, what type of shows do you have coming up?
So the month of May is pretty much blown out. And again, I do solo acoustic artist. I do a lot of national anthem performances, just a cappella. I also do rock anthems. And I do the full band, of course, which is Dave Bray USA and the Four Horsemen. So we go out, as far as what's coming up, you can find out where I'm going to be if you just go on DaveBrayUSA.com. .com, and then you can check out the tour dates. But that's one thing that I really, really love about how I've carved my own niche out of this thing is because, I'll go play an event with a full band and we'll come rolling in there and it's Ebadana's Junk Band Christmas, right? So we come in there, snakes in the water, just raging. And then the next day I'm like, all right, fellas, I will see you guys next week. And then the next day I'm in a black tie and I'm meeting presidents of Fortune 500 companies. And then the next day after that, I'm at an NFL game singing the national anthem or a baseball game singing the national anthem. And then the day after that, I'm on a podcast with you and we're talking about having me down to the ranch so I can come record for free and we're going to get an album together. So it can go from one spectrum to the other. And I love the fact that it never feels like it's the same thing over and over again. And then people often ask me, what do you do when you're off the road? Like, what does that look like? And I'm, soccer dad, basketball dad, wrestling dad, husband, and, try to be the best cook I can possibly be when I decide to do it. Raising 2 boys, 12 and 14 into men.
Nice.
And then I also have, instead of paying somebody to do my merchandise, I bought a print shop. So I purchased all the printing gear and I moved it into a building, and I now have my own screen printing business inside of my basically on my property. So I can go out there and I'll crank out all the merch that I'll need for that week going into the show. And I'm just, like I said, we basically created Brave Day Entertainment for Dave Bray USA. So we self-fitted a record label into our home, and my wife does all of the booking, the PR, the outreach, the logistics, getting me and the band and the guys to and from all the events. And I take care of the merch, the music, the recording, the labeling, and everything else. And we package it up and we grind. That's what we do.
Dude, that is a circus in and of itself. Like just to think about music, right? Music is a tremendous time-consuming, and it's a monster. And especially finding the right rooms to record in, the right engineers, everything, getting it published, all the rights, the duties, and licensing and all the craziness. And then you throw merchandise on top of it, the logistics, getting booked to different places, different venues, going to and from, traveling, having multiple people on deck, right? That is remarkable that you guys in-house manage that with Brave Day Entertainment, dude. And Becky, of course, I have to give a shout out. She sent all the information I needed to be up to date, completely responsive, just a sweetheart. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. So let's move this on a bit. I know we got to wrap. We got an hour. And I would like to ask just a couple of in general questions. Your key motivation in music, your inspirations or your influences, what would your playlist look like?
Wow.
Yeah.
So if I'm putting it together, my influences, they are so all over the place.
Let's go with 3.
Okay. So you got to go back. Well, I can't really, I can parenthetically grab some time frames of great music for you and put them out there. But if you go back to, some of the late 70s, rock genre guys. Okay. So that's pretty simple. You got your Zeppelins in there. You got your Stones in there. You got your, the Sgt. Pepper's, Beatles in there. Then you can come into early, hip hop, and you can get your NWAs, your Eazy-E's, and your Public Enemies in there. And then you cross into what I call pre-grunge and that era, that Soundgarden, Nine Inch Nails, and then obviously grunge and all of your Nirvana stuff and early Nirvana stuff. And then you go into the metal stuff, which obviously you got Metallica, Pantera, Ozzy stuff. And then you're coming out of Ozzy, and then you have some of the newer metal stuff that's coming out. But then again, you have some of the darker stuff. And it's so washed, man. It's such a wash because because wrap it all up in this underlying storytelling country motif that I've always just really loved. You know what I mean? Like early Hank, second Hank, even third Hank, the Tobys, the stuff that just kind of just tells a story. And, even some of the new cats, that are doing it, it's just unbelievable to know that music has existed for so long and we're still creating new things by it. When the Oreo came out, it wasn't like somebody was like, man, I want to make that Oreo better. It's just, But when the first, sound of music came out, somebody's like, well, I want to change something. I want to do it like this, and I want to do it like that. And then I'm going to, hip hop was such the game changer. And that's what was incredible to me, was listening to old early hip hop and rap. It was like, okay, I know that song. That was from this old song that they're just looping and looping. Like you said, that was just making music from music. It was like going down to the recycling. Days. Yeah. Sampling and recycling. And I'm like, my gosh, it is an infinite space to work. And I still to this day don't feel like that I have found my place in it, at a perfect nest of what I want me to sound like. And I don't know if I ever will. I pray that it does. I pray that at the end of the day that it's the lyrical and emotional connection that I have to music that is my nest, that it can be put anywhere, because I've been on hip hop records, I've been on metal records, I've been on rock records, and of course my stuff, which is sort of mid-country rock, pop, whatever. So I mean, it's everything.
That's awesome, dude. That is honestly just a thorough way that I could say, hey, we vibe in the music scene, because I'm all over the place too. Like, I tell people about Japanese jazz fusion, and they go like, what the hell did you just say? Go check that out. It's some insane music, and they play amazingly. It is some of the most disgusting timing that you could ever imagine, and they're so perfect at it. It's so nuts.
Yeah.
Was it Bill Burr brought up Meshuggah, and how one of their drummer was playing 4/4 on top, and then playing like 3/5 or 5/4, whatever the random one is, with his feet. I'm like, yeah, see, that's the kind of musicality I like. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. You bring up hip hop. I love hip hop. I love everything, honestly. And that's the reason why I'm so glad you were on today. Before we wrap up, can we get some shout outs from Dave Bray?
Yeah. You give me the lingo. I'll shout it out for you. You tell me what you want me to do.
I want to know who you got to shout out, bro. I got no shout outs.
From my people?
From your team.
It starts with my wife, Becky Bray. I actually met her 25 years ago today in the Pigeon House,
Congratulations.
Pennsylvania. Yeah, I would never be where I am or who I am without her. So shout out to her. My two boys, Rye and Lev, they are my blood and my water, and I can not live without them. And watching them become young men is part of the greatest experience I've ever had in my life. Shout out to a lot of my friends in the sober community, Jim Smith, Aaron McCon, Matty Stanball, some of the guys that I've lost along the way. My friend Kathy, where One Last Chance is written. Just those are my shout outs to people that I've, invested love in, and that have never been afraid to reciprocate it. And so those are my friends, those are my people, and just blessed to have them in my life in, all ways, shapes, and forms. And of course, I got to give shout out to Shelley Trucking and Schellenberger Trucking and Shelley Driving School for being a huge supporter of mine musically and emotionally and mentally. And Latham Marine, they've always just been really, really good to me as far as, helping me out whenever I need it with finances and things like that.
And now, One Last Chance by Dave Bray.
Well, I hope to God you know how much we love you. And I pray like hell you know how much we care. You're like an angel sent down to us from above, just to give us one last chance when none's there. Cause you pulled so many through their darkest days, with your loving hands and a heart of gold and a light that shines away. No, I don't have too many friends that I would ask to dance. So before you go, I pray I get the chance. I hope we get one last chance to have a few more laughs under the sun. I hope we get one last chance to raise a little hell and have some good old-fashioned fun. fast. This friendship that we built together was damn sure meant to last. No, I don't have too many friends that I would like to ask to dance. So before you go, I pray I get the chance. I hope we get one last chance to have a few more lamps under the sun. I hope we get one last chance to raise a little hell and have some fun. Oh, I'd like to pull you up out of that chair and watch you spin around and dance like you don't care. 'Cause you pulled so many through their darkest days with your loving hands and a heart of gold and a light that shines away. This time we had together went way too fast. And this friendship that we built together was damn sure built to last. No, I don't have too many friends that I would ask to dance. So before you go, I pray I get the chance. I don't have too many friends that I would like to ask to dance. So before you go, I pray I get the chance.
Internet, hello. License number 4 and then he's a fin number represent our race number 6 is the shit.
Well, I didn't need to sit.